All right. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. Today is a very interesting day because it's a historical moment and we'll be able to talk about that. But it is great to have each one of you joining today on April 25, 2023. Thank you so much and welcome to Qualitative Research Connect, where we discuss qualitative research topics, qualitative research questions, we share different things. And here I am with Dr. Ramos. Dr.
Hi.
Ariel Ramos is an associate professor at Cebu Technological University, the Argao campus, where he also serves as the graduate school dean. I'm glad to say that I have been on his campus. I was there just last October. He teaches various major subjects in the university, including English discourse, discourse analysis, and research methodology. So you can tell this is somebody who comes from the English background, which is a field that the two of us share actually, because one of my things that I studied was applied linguistics. So it is something that we share. Apart from being a peer reviewer, he is also an author of various qualitative research studies in the field of language teaching, communication, discourse, and other allied disciplines. He has published in different reputable journals. I must say that among the few people, the many people, not a few people, the many people have met in the Philippines who are very much passionate about qualitative research. Dr. Ramos is one of them. When we talked, we easily lost time when we were talking about qualitative research. And actually, this is the reason why he's part of this very first day of this historical moment, because of his passion for qualitative research. Not only his passion for qualitative research, but also his passion for bringing people over to learn qualitative research. He's a mentor. That's what I heard on his campus. Many people were talking about him being a mentor for qualitative research, being passionate about qualitative research, and that he was willing to share his knowledge of qualitative research with other people, empowering them with qualitative research. So welcome, Dr. Ramos.
Thank you so much, Dr. Safari, for that very warm words. Welcome. I'm very honored to be here with you, ladies and gentlemen, watching us live via Facebook. My good friend here is no less than the father of the Asian Qualitative Research Association. We have Dr. Safari, is a well-known qualitative research expert. By that we say, I'm just a product of his passion for qualitative research. He is a scholar, a trainer. I haven't been to any of the trainings he had, but I have been trained through his writings. He is an international speaker from the United States. Right, Dr. Safari? He is especially not new to the audience in the Philippines. As mentioned, he was here last October, and I can feel his passion for qualitative research. He is the founding president, I mentioned, of the ASEAN Qualitative Research Association. He is currently an associate professor of leadership in higher education at Bethel University in Minnesota, USA. So I believe one of his most recent publications, I'm so excited to tell this to everyone. This is a very helpful book. This is about the Sage Handbook of Qualitative Research in the Asian context, the first of its kind, ladies and gentlemen, where he was a co-editor with Dr. Arceli Rosario, also a very well-known researcher in the field of qualitative research. So thank you very much, Dr. Safari, for having me here.
Thank you, Dr. Ramos. It is a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
All right, so I think you're ready for several questions.
I will try, and all the difficult ones, I'll leave them to you.
there are a lot of questions set for you because I know they are very much excited to hear. And let's start with the easy ones.
Okay, sure.
All right. Okay, maybe let's try to know more, Dr. Safari. Why do you have so much interest in qualitative research?
Just like many people who may be watching this, I started off with quantitative research. I think this is a common trend in many universities where when you take any research class, the very first one in the undergraduate program is usually statistics or introduction to statistics. So that was the route I took all the way for my doctorate. It was really quantitative research. And the first time I heard about qualitative research, the person who talked about it, that was back in 2004, I believe, or 2003 or 2004. The professor who talked about it for like 30 minutes, that was the only thing in the whole program, the whole doctoral program. She talked about it for like 30 minutes in our research class, and we were all lost. And we all said, no, qualitative research is not for us. This is a confusing thing. It's not clear. Even the professor is confused. And so, no, that's not for us. But then fast forward, I found myself studying some more, and I said, let me try to really, let me try to conduct a qualitative study. And so trying to design that for my second doctorate, trying to design that, my advisor was very good in qualitative research, and she was just driving me crazy, literally. I mean, I write things, she just rejects it. Actually, I write somewhere, she rejects it. And so as I was going through this painful experience, I was learning qualitative research. Fast forward, I moved to the Philippines 2011, and Dr. Genaro Hapo, some of you know him, invited me to give a training on qualitative research, the first one ever in 2014. And that was the thing that opened my mind, because now I invested in qualitative research books. I bought several books to prepare for that training. It was a 3 days training. And I think it was the first one of its kind in most parts of the Philippines. By the time I finished that, together with my dissertation, I had fallen in love with qualitative research. I discovered that it allows me to dig much deeper into issues than quantitative research. I discovered that it was a tool for me to get to know people better, because people talk about themselves, talk about their stories, and I could connect easily with a lot of people. And after that, trust me, quantitative research started taking a back seat. And right now, I don't remember the last time I conducted a quantitative research study.
Wow. It's so amazing. I can feel the passion that you have. I think that's the effect of like more or less 19, 20 years of doing qualitative research.
Yeah,
Wow,
somewhere around there, somewhere around there.
that's really amazing. All right. So I think you have an answer for this with all those experiences that you have with qualitative research, Dr. Safari. We would like to know from our audiences all over the world. We would like to know, why did you start the Qualitative Research Connect platform?
Oh, yes. So right now you're watching this session from Qualitative Research Connect. And by the way, please make sure you share this platform with other people. This platform, I started it exactly when I left the Philippines. And this was because I discovered that there were so many questions that people kept asking me, and trying to answer sometimes the same question over and over again. It was not the most efficient way of addressing issues. And so I said, you know what, let me start a platform where people can interact, they can share questions, they can share resources. And as you can see, if you scroll down, you'll find a lot of resources here. We have many different people sharing. I share a lot of resources here. Because whenever I come across something that is really exciting about qualitative research, or something I didn't know about qualitative research, I want other people to know about it. And so that's why I created this Qualitative Research Connect, so that we can all have a room for sharing.
All right, I see. So this is a perfect avenue for all those enthusiasts of qualitative research.
Mhm.
With Dr. Safari, a handful of experience in qualitative research, he is a very good friend of ours who can guide us through Qualitative Research Connect. So
Yeah.
he's just right there, somewhere around the world. All right. Next question for you, Dr. Safari. I would like to know, what is the significance of this week? Because I wonder, of so many weeks that passed, I wonder what is the significance of this week since you launched this platform?
Indeed, this week is a historical moment. It is the very first session that we have for the different conversations that are going to come up. And some very heated conversations and powerful people, way more powerful than me, will be on this platform in the weeks and months to come.
Wow.
The reason is that 4 years ago today was the day I launched this Qualitative Research Connect platform. That was the day we had, the week we had the last conference of the Accra Asian Qualitative Research Association, when I was still president. That was the last week of me being the president of the Asian Qualitative Research Association. So I thought that to mark the anniversary of the 4 years of the platform, it is the best time to launch this new series of quality research discussions, quality research conversations.
Oh, that's amazing. I think it's an honor to be with you this day. This is a great privilege, Dr. Safari, to be with you in this platform.
Thank you for being part of it, Dr. Ramos.
Very wonderful. All right, another question for you, my friend. Why are you starting this new series of conversations on this platform?
Yes, you'll find that the way this is going to go, this series, is I'm not going to really have presentations per se. Maybe we might, but I want to have more of the conversation so that people can ask questions directly. In fact, we are hoping that those who are watching right now, you can ask your questions there on the Facebook, and we'll try to cover as many questions as possible so that we can answer those instantly. You ask your question and we get to that as soon as possible. And the other reason is, now that I'm out of the Philippines, sometimes I run into some experts, qualitative experts, that I think people would benefit from by listening to them and having a conversation from them. For example, I'm going to introduce somebody today, just stay tuned, that you will never imagine that we will have here. He will be the next speaker in the next couple of weeks, but I'm going to introduce him very soon. And I think bringing people, experts like these, to this platform will help us to collect experts from all over the world. As even some may come from the Philippines, some may be people that you know, and you feel like, okay, this person is really, really, really good in qualitative research. People can benefit from them, and we can host that person through a conversation here on this platform.
So it allows us to see different perspectives using one simple platform. This is very nice. I'm glad that you were able to start it, Dr. Safari.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. I learned this from the Philippines, because in the Philippines, people are so much into Facebook.
Yeah, well, you have all our support from the university, from Cebu Technological University. We will be supporting this endeavor of yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramos.
All right. Okay, let's now have those questions that are a little bit perhaps more interesting.
Okay.
In the context of doing qualitative research, perhaps, let's see if we can have some questions from our participants also. So Dr. Safari just mentioned, for those who have questions about qualitative research, you can write them down in the comment section, and we will try to answer them as quick as possible. Okay, here's the question for that, Dr. Safari. How can qualitative research transform institutions or communities?
Ooh, that's a big one. That's a big one. And actually, I believe I published an article. I believe I did. I know I talked about it, and I believe I did. If you Google my name and you put, qualitative research as one of the keywords and put advocacy on that, you'll be able to come across my article. You put my name, you put qualitative research, and you put advocacy. You'll find an article on that, because really what we want to see in qualitative research is not just like what we usually do in quantitative research, where you don't just run the statistics, it's statistically significant, and then we're done. We really want to see what is the impact. How do we apply this in changing lives? That is actually, when you look at Miles et al., Miles, Haberman, and Saldana, or Miles, Saldana, and Haberman, 2014 or 13, the one that is the book for qualitative research data analysis, when they talk about the 6 criteria of trustworthiness, which is validity and reliability of qualitative research, the last one, they talk about utilization. So if you do not show the value, the practical value of your qualitative research, actually you are failing in one of the criteria of trustworthiness of your study. So this is innate in qualitative research. We must make sure that whenever we undertake qualitative research, a qualitative research study, we have a clear value. Some qualitative research textbooks will even say qualitative research is not value-free, it is value-laden. It means we must come with an agenda to improve practice, to improve lives. So how does this apply to an institution? The beautiful thing about institutions is that they are a system. An institution is a system. And trying to understand the system, you cannot understand the system by doing just a few variables, because every issue addressed, they are interconnected with other issues. And so qualitative research really gives us the power to understand the complexity of the issue that we are trying to deal with. Let's say, for example, right now, people have mental health issues. This is a rising problem. You cannot say that it's just because they have a lot of assignments. No, you cannot address it only from the classroom perspective. Probably there are issues at home where people have lost their jobs. Maybe the heat of the Philippines right now, it is so hot. Maybe this is contributing to people being impatient because it is so hot. Maybe because of COVID-19, people's isolation, that was part of what started mental health issues. So there are many factors. Unless we interview people, unless we look at it holistically, we will not be able to capture very well the issue. And that applies as well to communities. Every issue we try to address, selecting just a few variables will not give us the complete picture. Last, we are able to make recommendations that we go in many different directions or multidimensional solutions, because we're able to understand things from multidimensional perspective of the qualitative research.
All right. So it has to start with a passion, with advocacy.
Yes.
And then you put it with qualitative research.
Yes.
Then there's nothing that you can change.
Yes. Exactly, right. Exactly.
That's great. That's great. I think that's really very nice. So people will say, this is not just qualitative research. This is not just a subjective type of approach in doing research. This is also something that you can change communities, transform institutions. I like that, Dr. Safari.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Wow. All right. So much for that. Let's have another question. Let's see if you can expound further for this. What measures must be taken to make findings from qualitative research more reliable?
Okay. I think that is a very good question, because especially for novice qualitative researchers, they come to qualitative research with a mindset of quantitative research. And we have all been there. I think most of us who start with quantitative research, we have all been there because our mind has learned validity, reliability, and have to run tests and so on. And some have gotten to the point of asking me, what quantitative research software do you use to analyze qualitative research data? I said, well, that's a very vague question because we're talking about qualitative research, not quantitative research. The first step, I would say, it starts with the design. If something goes wrong in your planning process, then everything else that follows will come with a problem as well. So to be able to design qualitative research well, we need to read and learn about the qualitative research design we are trying to undertake. Let's say you want to do a phenomenological study. Read about how to conduct a phenomenological study. There is a number of books, not a whole lot, but there's a lot of articles that have been published on that. Read about that and implement that if you have not been trained in that. Some of you have attended the trainings of Accra on specific design, and usually those trainings, we make them hands-on, meaning you can actually follow the steps that you learned there and do an excellent job. So at the design level, basically the bottom line is garbage in, garbage out. That saying is correct. If we did not design properly, we are going to end up with garbage. But now on the implementation side and data analysis, we have many different strategies. And actually, when you look at these strategies, you will discover that we can trust qualitative research even more than quantitative research. For example, we have the word that we call triangulation, where we use at least 3 different sources of data. That means if somebody lied to me in an interview, I can still see if that matches what I got from the observations, for example, or from the documents, or from the videos, or from the audios, from the pictures, from the artifacts. So we need to use multiple sources of data. We have what we call member check, which is after I have analyzed my data. Some people do it after data transcription, but usually I prefer after data analysis. I send my data analysis back to the participants to check if I interpreted the data correctly. So if something is wrong, they can tell me this is not really what we meant. And this happens a lot when you are doing an international or multicultural study. Like studies I've been doing in the Philippines, I may misinterpret what people said or how people behaved in the observation. I think I'm looking at it from my own perspective, only to discover that, no, it doesn't mean that in our culture. So when I'm returning this data analysis to people, to the participants, they are able to find different things that can be improved. We spend in a lot of time in the research context. You don't just, in a quantitative research, I have had some studies where the survey took 5 to 10 minutes, and this is a common thing. And we say we have collected data. In a qualitative research, we spent a lot of time collecting data so that we can fully understand things in depth, because qualitative research is an in-depth exploration. We have other things that we call audit trail. Audit trail refers to documenting all the processes and decisions that you took while conducting the qualitative research study, so that anybody can check and see if you were able to carry on the study properly. We have another one is peer review. I have used this in a few studies. I don't really use it in all of them. I wish I would, but I've used it in some of the studies where I send my data analysis. Usually, if I created a thematic analysis table, that's the one I send to friends and say, like 2, 3 friends and who are good in qualitative research, please look at this. This is what I have come up. Here are my research questions. Here's the research problem. And here's what I came up with. What do you think about this? Is there something that I'm missing? And sometimes I have had some people come up with ideas and say, did you look into this? Oh my goodness, yeah, that came up in another interview. And I'm able to capture that. So when you look at all these things together, you find that your study is much more trustworthy, which is, as he is reliable, we talk about trustworthy in qualitative research. And this is a lot more than what we do in quantitative research in trying to establish the trustworthiness of the study.
That's very nice, Dr. Safari. There are still measures that we can do when we are utilizing qualitative research. It doesn't mean that we cannot have it reliable at the end. All right.
And
Okay.
let's make it clear that we don't run statistical tests for the trustworthiness. It's those strategies that we use to increase the trustworthiness of this study.
All right. Let's go back to some of that points later. But I have another question that is also connected to this one. How to identify the best or the most fitting qualitative design to be used when doing research? All right, because you mentioned so many.
that's a one whole session. I have one whole session in training, like 1 hour and a half on qualitative research design. So when you ask me about qualitative research design, so we're talking about case study, action research, phenomenology, and so on. So let me just give brief emphasis of a few designs.
You have 30 minutes.
If you are new to qualitative research and you are looking at a university or a process or a community, you just want to understand it, that's case study. If you want to look at a problem, understand it, generate solutions and implement the solutions, and then see how the solutions work. And if they don't work, you start a new process with new solutions and try them again. That is action research. If you want to establish, the primary goal is to produce a theory. If the only main ultimate goal is to establish a theory, that's a grounded theory. If you are looking into a lived experience of a group of people that have experienced something very intense, very terrible, a terrible experience that was so intense, and you want to understand the essence of that experience, that shared experience, you are in phenomenology. If you want to study cultures, you want to study cultures of universities, sometimes I think you can do that, but usually it is cultures of communities. That is ethnography. If you want to study one person because this person has something unique that the whole world should learn about. Maybe it's a leader. Maybe you want to interview, for those who are in the Philippines, you want to interview President Duterte because he did an amazing job in handling the COVID-19, you know, whether you agree or not, but maybe that's what he did. Then you are into narrative inquiry. So I think that's quite a few of them out there.
Wow, that's amazing. I was like getting excited to know more about maybe photo voice or appreciative inquiry. Wow.
Okay, the thing is that, yes, you know, we can talk about photo voice and appreciative inquiry. The thing is that I'm trying to talk about those that are very commonly seen in the literature.
Very common.
Yes, appreciative inquiry, we use this. If you don't want to look at an issue from a problem perspective, you want to appreciate the good things that people have done, and you just want to come from strengths perspective, then appreciative inquiry will be. Photo voice is very new, it's fairly new. This is, some consider it a design by itself, and I have the tendency to believe to go to that side, but others consider it as a data collection method. So what does it have to do with, you know, participants are given cameras to go out, take pictures of the most important things, then come back and then report to the group and to the researcher. And then from there, they put the pictures together to create that research study. It's a very, very unique thing that is growing. You can read about that photo voice, you can Google that, and you'll come across a few interesting things. But let's start with those that are commonly used.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, for those who are watching, you can learn more about that if you're going to join ACRA. That's a That's the organization where Dr. Safari started, and it's Association of Qualitative Research, ASEAN Association of Qualitative Research. So there you go. You
Yes.
will be able to learn a lot from this man. He has a lot of experience in the field of qualitative research. All right. So maybe a lot of people would like to ask you, can you be my research advisor, Dr. Safari?
I've been actually advisor. I'm advisor in many countries, actually research advisors. Why not? If you are willing to work very hard.
Right, that's correct. Okay. All right. Now let's have another question. What are some common research instruments to be used when doing qualitative research? And another question in line with that is how to validate research questions for qualitative research.
Okay. I think I had mentioned some of these. The most commonly used interviews. If you are conducting qualitative research, really, we want to see the first on the list. We should see interviews, and specifically semi-structured interviews. Because we know that we are going to dig deeper into the topic by doing that. Except when you do like discourse analysis as your research design, that one you can analyze existing text. So you don't have to do interviews, or you're analyzing, basically discourse analysis will not, you may not necessarily have to have interviews. But if you are doing qualitative research and you're going to have human participants, definitely we want to have semi-structured interviews. We have observations. To me, that's the number two, because whatever people say, you need to see if it matches what you observe them doing. And there are many different types, not many, there are 2 or 3 different types of observations. You can read about that. We have documents. Documents are very powerful. If you are conducting a study in a school and it has to do with maybe learning, it would be nice to observe, to collect maybe the lesson plans, maybe the curriculum, maybe tests, assignments for the students, if you are given permission, of course. If you're looking into leadership, for example, for the presidents, vice presidents, teachers and things like that, even CVs can become documents that you are going to use for your data analysis. You can use existing videos. You can use blogs. You can use social media. There are some software today, packages today, that help you analyze tweets or Instagram stuff, where things are trending and you try to understand what is trending. So when you look at the early publications, qualitative research in the 70s and the 80s, they will tell you, those who started qualitative research as a field, they will tell you all is data. It's really, you have to just be creative and convincing why that source of data is important for your study. Now, how do we validate our instruments? How do we validate our interview questions, or our observation checklists, our observation protocols, our document analysis checklists, things like that? We do not run statistical tests for that. Let me emphasize, we do not run statistical tests on that. What you do after you have created your protocol, whether it's observation protocol, interview protocol, or whatever checklist you're going to use, you give that to experts, some experts in the field of qualitative research, and experts in the field of where you are conducting the study, disciplinary field, the discipline where you're conducting the study. So if you're in language, which is Dr. Ramos's baby, then you will give that to 2 or 3, 4, usually 3, 4 people. One who can look at the methodological flow of the checklist or the protocol, and the content expert who will see if you are really capturing everything. And usually what I do, I would send the research questions, of course, the title of my study, the research questions. Sometimes I may include the problem statement, just 1 paragraph, just the synopsis of the problem statement, then the research questions, and then the instruments that I want to use, or the protocols. And then they are able to say, hey, this one, you are not really capturing this. And what I have come up with in some of my publications, some of you have my books, I have the interview metrics, where you have the questions of the interviews in one column, and in the next column you have the specific questions that are going to be the actual. The first row is the research questions. And then the second one, that's where I put the interview questions, so that each research question has direct interview questions that are related to that. And the reason why I came up with this, and I think it's only in my publications where you come across that, you won't find that in any other publication. It was that I discovered that it was always a challenge with my students who are working on their dissertations. They would have the research questions and the interviews, they are just coming up with them without looking at the research questions. And in the end, either you have interview questions that have nothing to do with the research questions, or you have some research questions that don't have assigned interview questions. So I said, you know what, we need an interview matrix. So you have the research questions, and next to that in the other column, you have the exact interview questions that will align to the each research question. And with that, things are very well balanced. You are not going to miss anything.
All right. So it's a very critical part of doing research, having the instrument to gather the data.
Yes.
All right.
Definitely.
All right. And still we can have validation for reliability in qualitative research, as mentioned by our good friend. It can be sent out for content validity. Are the questions not leading enough, or are the questions clear enough? Yes. Because there might be cases, Dr. Safari, that the interviewee might be having problem understanding the question of the interviewer.
Definitely.
So, would you also suggest to further clarify or categorize the sets of questions? Like, for example, these are the opening questions for this research question. These are the main questions.
Yes.
These are the closing questions, like that. Correct. Would it be better?
Correct. And that is what you'll find in many of the quality research textbooks. That's why they will tell you that you need to have introductory questions. These are the ones that help you to establish rapport with the participant. You start with the questions that they know. Some of these questions are not even part of the actual interview. So, where do you work? Can you tell me a bit about the work that you do? And how long have you been there? And so you're helping them to get comfortable. So that is introductory ones, and then you go to the actual thing. Some will tell you that the tough questions should not be at the beginning, they should be in the middle. And then you start with the easy ones, you go to the difficult ones, just like Dr. Ramos did here. He started me off with things that are very easy. Now he's roasting me with the difficult questions. And I hope he will end again with the easy questions. So that's the structure of interviews.
All right. There's another follow-up question to that, Dr. Safari. When it comes to the language to be used in doing the interview, what can you advise? Should it be the language of the interviewee, or should it be a language that is common to both?
Yes, we have a whole chapter in the SAGE Handbook of Qualitative Research in the Asian Context. Some of you, your universities have that book. Please go read that chapter. I know it because I was the lead author of that chapter. Building from my linguistics background, I had to address that issue because it's a very serious issue. And actually, it's a complex issue as we were preparing this chapter. There were a lot of things that I didn't think about that I was coming across from different authors on qualitative research. Languages, because the Asia has so many languages. Africa, the same thing, so many languages. I know some people are joining here from Africa as well. So many languages, thousands of languages. How do we deal with this? So if you are interested in this, please go read that chapter. But the straightforward answer to that question is we should interview people in the language that they are most comfortable with. Yeah. I have seen some Filipinos, for example. I'm going to talk about the Philippines because I have my host is a Filipino. We have Filipinos from Cebuano, just like you, but they would not carry on a strong conversation in Cebuano.
Yeah.
They'd rather carry on conversation in English. Am I right?
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct.
So even if Cebuano is technically your mother tongue, it is not the language you're most comfortable with. And so I would just ask you, which one are you comfortable with? If I happen to be a Cebuano and you're Cebuano, then if you say, I'd rather have it in a Cebuano, then we'll do it in a Cebuano. I'd rather have it in English, then we'll have it in English. Just imagine if I go to a place in Cebu and I'm interviewing people who are poor in English, not poor, their English proficiency is basic level of English. It will not make any sense, and it will not make my studies trustworthy if I'm interviewing them in English and they're struggling to give me the answers in English. So I need to ask a translator, an interpreter, or train somebody who's going to carry on interviews for me so that they can answer in the language they are comfortable with. So because of this globalization, people knowing several languages, the bottom line is not the mother tongue. Here in the US, maybe we can say mother tongue, most people say English, but outside of the United States, really it's the language that the person is most comfortable with, and that language may not necessarily be their mother tongue.
All right, that's very nice, very inclusive. So in other words, the language should not be a constraining factor to get the right data. All right.
Correct.
Because our ultimate goal there is to transform that community, and we have to get the right data no matter what language it will be.
That is
right?
correct. That's
very nice, Dr. Safari. So another question for you. What are the, we're done with, let's say, gathering the data. We're done with the interview. We have now a lot of information. There comes the problem. What are common ways of deducing, of analyzing qualitative data?
You know, this question that you have, I have somebody going to introduce you to in the next few minutes who is going to address that question. And that person is much bigger than me, like 10 times, 100 times bigger than me as far as qualitative research and qualitative data analysis is concerned. So please save that. I'm going to go back to that question.
All right, all right. Okay, so let's entertain some questions from the audience in the FB Live. Okay. Dr. Safari, we have here a question from Ebenezer. I hope I was able to pronounce the name correctly. The question is, do we have objectives of the study in qualitative research or not?
Oh, yes, I have heard that question. This question usually comes with the questions of, do we need theoretical framework in qualitative research? And the answer is yes for both questions. In research, you can use either the research objectives or you can use the research questions. What you'll find in my publications, what I recommend to people, I'm much more into research questions, okay? Basically, the research questions end with a question mark and the research objectives end with a period. That's the only difference. But it's basically looking at the same thing, subdividing your study into different chunks, manageable chunks. That's why we have research questions or research objectives. So in my publications, you'll find that I encourage people to have the background of the study, which is usually 1-2 pages. If it's an article for publication, 1 to 2 pages. Then you have which is the introduction. So introduction, you have the background of the study, the problem statement. We need to know what the problem is, and you need to establish that very clearly. Then the purpose statement, which is only, like main thing. Why are you doing this study? Why do you want to achieve this? And then from there, you have the research questions. But in some publications, some journals, they will tell you they prefer to have research objectives. So instead of having research questions, you just convert them to a period. That statement, instead of interrogative form, you convert it to declarative statement, and that becomes a research objective. So yes, 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 definitely.
All right, there you go. There's the answer of Dr. Safari. So you can still throw your questions via comment section of the FB Live for those who are following us. We have around 80 viewers now, Dr. Safari.
Wow, that's
And
thank you.
yeah, they're very interested. There is another question, Dr. Safari. How can we get a copy of that book? The maybe you can give us an
Yes.
information.
Unfortunately, we don't. I don't know the store that is selling that. If you are asking, the person who asked the question is the Philippines. I know there is a store that is selling that in the Philippines. Somebody ran through this book. If you're talking about the SAGE Handbook of Qualitative Research in the Asian context, somebody ran through that book in the book fair in Mall of Asia just a few months ago. I think that they usually have the book fair in September, October, somewhere around there. But they didn't tell me exactly which one was selling that. Here is the secret, though. That store was selling that book very expensive, 17,000 pesos. I have discovered that on Amazon, it's a lot cheaper. So please go on Amazon.com and order it online. Trust me, Sage is also selling it much more expensive than Amazon. Don't tell Sage, otherwise, I'm in trouble. I just that I care about you. I want to make sure that you get it a much more affordable way. I think it is one of the best tools you can have, and you can ask your library if it is too expensive. I understand it's quite expensive. You can ask your library to order for you so that you can have a copy in your library. That would be the way. If you want to buy any other of my books, I have so many of them. You can just send me a private message and I will get you all the information. All my books are somewhere between $10 to $15. I make them extremely affordable so that people can get that. And if you order it on Amazon, it's even I think less. I think I sell for like $9 because I don't have to ship. You'll have to pay your shipping from Amazon. So I make it very, very cheap so that people can really learn qualitative research.
All right. That's part of the advocacy to share a lot of information to as many people as much as possible. Here's another interesting question, Dr. Safari. I think you would like to answer this. When doing qualitative research, when doing data analysis on that part, do you prefer to have it done with a specific software or just do it manually?
If it is a massive study, go with the software because it will help you to manage the data. If it's a small study, you don't need a software. Just that Word document where you are, even by hand, you can do it by hand. And you'll find that I think it is Robert Yin who says that you don't have to use software. You can do data analysis by listening. If it was interviews, by listening to the interviews, you can analyze your data. I have done both. I have, for big ones, I always use software. I use Hyper Research. For small studies, I don't. I just listen to the interviews and I'm listening. I can easily make connections between the teams. They come very naturally, but I guess it's because my brain is wired more with the qualitative research than quantitative research. So I can see very quickly the different connections that people are talking about without the software. So small studies, you don't need software. Massive complex study, please use software. It will save you time because you are going to have several codes and trying to remember all that. It's a lot easier with a software, but a software is not a requirement to conduct qualitative research.
All right, I see. So it doesn't mean also that you become better researcher if you have your qualitative software.
I mean, some people tell you that, I did it by hand, and some people feel like, you should have used the software. But if somebody really knows, has read a lot about qualitative research, they will understand that it's not necessary if it's a small study. So, I don't determine somebody's expertise of qualitative research based on whether they can use a qualitative research software or not. No, I don't.
All right. Somebody's asking question from the FB Live. She's talking about the 3 types of approaches in research: qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method. She's wondering, which do you think is easier on your part now?
No, for
Yeah,
me, if it's for me, yes,
yeah.
definitely qualitative research, because
Uh,
I breathe the qualitative research, I talk qualitative research, I publish qualitative research. So it's already part of me, and I find more satisfaction in qualitative research, because I know that I had looked at things much more in depth than in quantitative research. Mixed methods, I love it theoretically, but I have not done it because it's a lot more. Because if you think qualitative research is a lot of work, you need to know that in the mixed methods, you need to add also quantitative research. So it's a lot more. So I have not done that, but I enjoy qualitative research.
all right. So we cannot deny the bias that you are into qualitative research.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Okay. There's another question with regards to doing the analysis. In doing the analysis, Dr. Safari, Mark here is asking, do we need to translate to what language for the presentation of the data?
I think people really need to read that chapter in the Sage Handbook of Research in the Asian Context, because that chapter on language, I address that question, and here is the answer.
Yeah.
And this comes from many different perspectives of qualitative experts of qualitative research, that you need to do, if you know the language. Let's say you're going to publish in English, right? And you conducted your interviews in Cebuano or in Spanish and French. You need to do your data analysis in that language of the data collection, because there's a lot of nuances that you'll find that are not in the second language. Once you are done with that data analysis in that language, of course, you as the researcher, you need to know that language. If you don't know it, you know what, you have to translate first. If the interviews were in Cebuano, I don't know Cebuano, of course they have to be translated first before I do the data analysis. But if you happen to know the language, that language, please analyze data there, because you are going to get a lot richer interpretation in the language of the interview. And then when you are reporting, when you are writing the report, then you write that in English. In this case, if English is the language you're using for publication or for your dissertation, that is the rule of thumb as far as translation is concerned of the interviews.
All right. All right. So there are too many people getting excited, wondering about how to do this. Okay. Another question, Dr. Safari, is this. How do we know that we're using the right analytical framework when we deduce, when we analyze our qualitative data? I think this person is wondering about, am I using the right framework of Miles and Huberman, or maybe of Kulaichi? Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, again, this is related to data analysis, which I'm going to answer in our concluding questions, but let me briefly say that whenever, and I've written this in a number of my books, that whenever you are conducting qualitative research, not only do you need to select a specific design, qualitative research design, like we talked about earlier, but you need to choose the data analysis model that you're going to follow. Let's say you're doing case study. Robert Yin has his own model. Sharon Miriam has her own model. Robert Stake, who is another case study expert, has his own model. They have a lot of overlap, but they have specific ones. So you need to say, for this study, Robert Yin's model was followed, and then you elaborate the steps that that one is done. And so as long as you follow that model, that data analysis model, you will do it right, and you will be able to prove to the readers that you were able to analyze your data correctly.
All right. You know what, Dr. Safari, you're making us more excited for the next coming days, months, and years about this platform. It's really very helpful. It's very insightful. So this question, what can we expect in the coming months and years of these conversations?
You can expect, we can expect, including myself, we can expect a lot of learning from different experts from all over the world. And I want to let you know that in a little over than 2 weeks from now, a little over than 2 weeks from now, you don't want to know who will be our guest in these conversations.
Wow.
Dr. Johnny Saldana will
Wow.
be
Right.
part of our conversation.
Very
The guru,
powerful.
that is the global guru of qualitative
Yeah.
data analysis. So that's why I was saying this question, there's somebody much bigger than me. Anyone who is in qualitative research, you know, Dr. Johnny Saldana. I ran through him just 2 weeks ago. I posted on this Qualitative Research Connect just 2 weeks ago when I was in a conference in Chicago. We happened to be in the same room because obviously we both love qualitative research. And I just saw his name and said, wait a minute, this is the guru that we have all been citing. I mean, if you're in qualitative research and you don't know who Dr. Johnny Saldana is, that means you have not really read about qualitative research.
Yeah, that's
this
true.
This is the man of qualitative data analysis. So watch out for a flyer that's going to come out very soon, probably this week. We will have Dr. Johnny Saldana with us. And so we will, as the moment I run through a few other big shots like that, I will always try to bring them here so that we can hear from the founders, the fathers of qualitative research in this conversation. So please check this from time to time, and also ask questions that can be addressed here, so that we, over the months and over the years, we can continue having these conversations. I think we will all be blessed with all these kind of conversations.
You're truly a blessing to all of us, because you're gonna connect us to this legend. Dr. Saldana is a legend in qualitative data analysis.
Definitely, definitely.
All right. What should anyone interested in being a guest on this Qualitative Research Connect platform do? Dr.
Saldana? So if you want to share and get participate in a conversation like this, you know, today I was with Dr. Ramos, and you know, maybe you have published a lot in qualitative research, and you know, you find people asking you a lot of questions. You've been asked to give trainings. You have all these things, and you feel you have something that you can share with people. Please contact me privately on Facebook Messenger, and we will work on something. But really, I expect that you have published a lot on qualitative research, because then we know that what you're going to share has been evaluated by other people through your publications. That will be one thing that I would expect. And or if you happen to know somebody who's really, really, really good in qualitative research that you want to have on this platform for these conversations, it would be nice, because we need to all continue learning from one another and bringing all these legends from different countries, Indonesia, Philippines, and Cambodia, Russia, and Ukraine. Let's bring them here. Let's learn from them in a less threatening way possible.
Yeah, that's very nice. The good thing about the internet is that we will be able to connect.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's very nice. Right. So I would just like to remind those, Dr. Safari, for those who throw questions and they were not, these questions were not answered directly by Dr. Safari. You can still have the answers later on. He will be doing the answers in the chat box for sure. And for those who are still in the process of formulating their questions, for sure, there are still many of us who are interested about qualitative research. You can just write your questions there in the chat box. So in the comment section, so you will have also your answers from Dr. Safari. So I would like to thank you, Dr. Safari, for having me here tonight, here in the Philippines, morning there in your place. Thank you to all those who are with us watching in the FB Live. We are inviting them, Dr. Safari, to join us in the coming talks with great legends in qualitative research. I'm so excited about the talk with Dr. Saldana. It's really very wonderful. Is there one last thing, Dr. Safari? Is there anything else that you wish to share to our audience before we cut off?
Yes, yes, please, whenever we post a flyer and we ask you to ask questions, please ask your questions there, because the first questions to come will be the first ones we're going to address in the conversation. So like, for example, when I post a flyer for Dr. Gianni Saldana, please, if you have questions, that burning question you want to make sure that he addresses, post your question. The first come, first served, because 1 hour, no more than that. So, and if we don't have enough before the session, then we'll take others during the session. But I think it's going to be an exciting moment to have this conversation with Dr. Gianni Saldana in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramos.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Facilitating this.
Have a great day, everybody.
All right. Good night in the Philippines, and a good day for those who are on this side of the world. I will see you again in 2 weeks.
Goodbye.
Bye. Okay.